Okay, we're resuming from a break to change the film, and back to you, Chief.
Okay. So moving on to our FY16 request. Again, at $249,685.76. If you want to look at Form 3 on the expense side and salary side, they're broken down. And again, relative to the issue I just raised, you'll see that under tuition and training, the request is zero. And it was zero last year, the years prior to that, because all the costs associated with tuition and training for the dispatchers was covered by that grant program. I didn't include it as an increase to the budget because it's really something that is hopefully going to be outside the budget and have the grant program refunded in the mechanism that was originally planned. That's why it was put in as a Form 8 request, as opposed to just putting it in here, because it's funding that we haven't had to pay in the past, so it's additional funding. The other one where you notice, the other line where you would notice an increase is on clothing, and that the figure that's shown, the $3,800, is a contractual number. There's a certain number of dispatchers, they get a certain allowance for clothes, a certain allowance for cleaning, and that's what that reflects. They haven't spent it necessarily in previous years, but that's really our contractual obligation to be prepared for. Moving on to the salary side of Form 3 on the expenses. Again, in this, I would just remind the committee that when they look at the FY15 revised budget, those figures do not include contractual settlements that happened last fall. But the FY16 number is inclusive of that, as well as a negotiated increase for next year, starting in July. And so you'll see some of the items have increased. The wages, while it looks significant, it's really basically that's 2 years worth of pay raises and the numbers they're looking at there. But again, the FY16 figures are correct.
And the contract runs through 16,
yes.
so this will not change.
Correct. Yes. And just to give you an idea of what some of that training is, that the state requires every public safety dispatcher, in addition to maintaining certifications on emergency medical dispatch that we have, that runs, we have to keep people up to date on and recertifications. There's a mandate for in-service training as well. And it pays for the courses and it pays for the officers, the dispatchers, to go to those classes. Or if the class is happening when they're working, it pays to backfill, because obviously we have one dispatcher working at a time. So that's those costs are. The rest of the cleaning, the equipment, we're holding on to our server. I mentioned it before, that the closer we get to moving, the closer we get to a new one. And we'll hope that it's working for us so far. But the budget figure does include some monies there to cover costs related to the IT infrastructure of the dispatch function.
Okay, any questions on the dispatch budget? Yes, Mr.
Chief, I was going to ask about the server. If worst comes to worst, what are we looking at if you have to replace that?
At this point, I would probably go to the billing committee and purchase a server that would serve going into the new facility and utilize the IT funds that go along with the building, the technology budget of the new building to purchase the server. I would just rather not have a one-year-old server when I move in. So try to make it work. I would not buy something lesser that I'm then just going to not use going forward.
Okay. I didn't mean to get into a big thing. I'm just concerned that are we talking suddenly we have to spend $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000?
No.
We would just accelerate the IT budget out of the new project as well.
That's really what I wanted to understand. That's right.
Any other questions on dispatch? Should we do the traffic budget, the teeniest one, and then go to the big
You
one?
even missed that one, it was so
Sir,
small.
I mean, my paperwork, that's incorporated in the police budget.
Oh, okay. It came as a separate piece to us, so,
Okay.
so you can combine them.
Well, I mean, it's, if we feel good about a small number, we can do that.
Now let's roll through the police one as read it.
Okay. Again, as was with the situation in the dispatch budget, when you look at the forms, please just keep in mind that the FY15 number, though it said advised, is not inclusive of contractual settlements that took place
At the fall.
for the fall time meeting for this current fiscal year, as well as next fiscal year. The numbers work out to our FY16 budget request is $1,718,400. Of that, $166,700 is for expenses, and the salaries are $1,551,700. And those figures, if you want to look at Form 3, on the expense side, there is a small increase, there's an increase in the maintenance contracts because by the end of fiscal 16, we're going to be into our new building, and there's going to be some contracts that go along with that, but it's for a 2-month period. So there is an increase there. I would imagine moving forward beyond that, though, we're going to be looking at an increase in that line item. The tuition and training, there are trainings. We just appointed 3 sergeants this past fall. There's training that goes along with that, some of which comes from the state, that comes at only the cost of personnel to go. Others are from outside sources. And in addition to that, we've appointed a new detective on the department. One of the sergeants was doing detective work and is now a sergeant. So we're going to be going through a pretty healthy amount of specialized trainings. And while the state does provide some training, they don't have the funds or the ability to provide what's needed to properly train officers and sergeants. So that is an increase there that's going to be reflective of going towards those goals of getting that training in place. We do have an academy reimbursement on this year's budget. Contractually, after officers have been on the police department for 5 years, the town reimburses them the cost of their academy. The upside of that is, for the taxpayers, is that when a new officer, as Mr. Partricanti is a new officer and is in the academy now, he has paid that fee. And the town will reimburse him after 5 years of service to the town. I say that's a good deal for the town because I've lived the world where 2 or 3 weeks after getting out of the academy, someone no longer works for you. So that's a bitter pill to swallow, but the town has positioned itself so they don't have to worry about that. But we do have an officer who is going to have his 5-year anniversary during fiscal year 16, so that reimbursement is there for him. As with the maintenance cost, the facility, the custodian is up, reflective of the new building next spring. And we've looked at some historical numbers that weren't reflective of our budget numbers that had worked because other historical numbers weren't correct either, and it just all kind of worked out. But to get things more appropriately lined up, things such as the telephone budget, you'll see, the revised, the 15 budget was $12,500, and we're looking for $17,000 for our telephones. But if you look back to 13 and 14, you'll see that figure is pretty much right in line of that. And postage, on the other hand, was significantly reduced because if you look at 13 and 14, you'll see that our postage expenses were nowhere near what we had budgeted. The dues are up because there's additional people going to some of the courses and some of the associations that people participate in. And other than that, the rest of the numbers just kind of roll down. I'm very interested in what that gasoline figure is going to look like next year. But, nothing lasts forever. Such is the case for $1.99 gas. So, we'll have to just see how that goes. But I'd rather, if you look historically, we're right in line on our gasoline. Any questions on the expense sides? The salary side, if you look on Form 3 for the salaries, again, this is where you're going to see some looks like sticker shock for a car if you've car shopping lately. But again, the FY16 figure is what we're looking at on settled contracts, so it won't be going up at all from that. And everything really is just reflective of those increases and moving forward on what to expect. And there is a note on the bottom of your page there, I think you can see the numbers. The actual, if you looked at the FY15 number revised for the fall town meeting, the figure at the bottom of the page, the 1541, that's what the revised salary budget would be if you included those numbers. So you're really looking at 1541 to 1551. Okay?
Just a quick question. Just on the overtime, I know you said something at the beginning. Just clarify that again. The budget, revised budget is 142.5.
And that was the budget that we were living with right now. And we've already spent 180.
Okay. So you have a figure for what you're expecting the full year to be in a revised? I know it's hard because you're expecting...
If things move forward as they are scheduled, and the two officers who are currently out on disability remain out on disability for the entire fiscal year 16, which I don't anticipate. Go into this. One of them probably will. The other, I would think, would be not the entire year, but some significant portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
There is funds, and there was a breakdown on one of the summaries that there is funds available from insurance. The town insures itself in those circumstances. So, though I'm paying the officer to be out on disability, there is a revenue source coming in that helps in paying the overtime cost. It doesn't cover all the overtime costs, but it helps in all the overtime costs. Right now, the town has Mr. Percicanti in the academy. He is Sergeant Quinn's replacement. So the line, what was Sergeant Quinn's salary in that number, is paying Officer Percicanti. Moving forward, he gets out of the academy. Now he's working, getting paid, whereas now it's going to be the academy being paid. He's filling shifts, so he's being paid, so my overtime should reduce. I also have Sergeant Meyer's salary line that it was budgeted, but no one's being paid that. So the salary line then becomes available as an overtime revenue source to cover that shift. So when you look at numbers, for example, on wages for FY14, it's $20,000, $27,000 less than FY13. Because instead of paying someone who wasn't here, I spent that money in the overtime. That's where part of that ungodly figure is.
Okay.
So the answer to the question is that with Officer Percicanti coming out of the academy and going on the road, and being able to hopefully get somebody in to replace Sergeant Myers without the necessity of sending someone to the academy, they come and all have those two positions will be people working shifts at the start of the fiscal year. My other two vacancies would be people who, at this time, are out on disability, but I'm getting a reimbursement for that. So between the reimbursement that I'm getting and the fact that I have people working shifts now that I don't have working, the number of the overtime should work.
Okay. So,
absent the next foot.
And as it gets further along in the year, we'll get requests for funding if needed.
Yeah, I think all we were looking for is to get an estimate, but I guess given what's going on.
Too many moving parts right now.
As it is right now.
Yeah.
Well, given what's going on right now, you're absorbing it within your budget, just shifting things around. So there's no need to look at the reserve fund or anything like that at this point.
Not yet.
I will put the one caveat in that is true provided
Nothing
that,
else.
and that the estimated reduction in the overtime with the officers coming on the street to work yields us the savings that we think we're going to get.
Yeah, but we meet every other week, almost every week towards the end, and as as the funding reduces, if there's needs a reserve fund transfer, it's easy enough to do.
Yes, I've already, Mr.
You've
Aspinall
done
and
it
I
before.
are already going on monthly reviews of where that
Yeah.
number sits.
I just
Yeah,
think
and we
that-
typically don't do the reserve fund transfer until you have spent it
Right.
down.
But I think as we approach that,
Yeah.
it's important
Yeah.
that if you can keep us informed
Absolutely.
so we know
Yes,
what's
as I said,
likely to happen.
I'm giving monthly reports to the town administrator on where that target number is.
Great.
And the balance is just, if you look at it, it's pretty much, you'll see things such as the night differential. Those numbers are all just off of that Form 6, as you look at Form 6. And just as you look at Form 6, it has the same FY15 implication as the other forms do. I did break out a little bit on the expense side, what some of these costs are. I know in the past, they just said that maintenance contracts is the number, but I have broken out some of it, everything from our records management software, so what we pay for phones and copiers and things we have to pay. And those are the figures, again, reflective on the Form 3 on the expense. If there's any questions at all? Form 5 is for equipment. I will be asking in the budget this year to replace one cruiser, which is the schedule that we'd like to maintain. And this current fiscal year, we had to get 2 because the previous year we didn't get any. So now we're back on schedule, and I'm hoping that we can continue with that schedule. You do have on the form that I handed out a list of the current fleet on the Form 5, and if you look down, it's a C-42. It's a 2007 Crown Victoria with 92,000 miles on it. That would be the target vehicle that we're looking to replace during the fiscal year.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Devine.
Chief, on C-46, who's driving that?
Me. For about another week. One, due to limited funds the town has, and obviously there's other needs besides the police department, and I fully understand that. With discussions with Mr. Aspinwall, what we've done is we've used some asset forfeiture funds that have been provided to us, and we're getting another vehicle through that. That source of revenue, though, requires that the town, they can't replace a vehicle in the fleet, they can only add a vehicle to the fleet. So the Car Force 6 will be used for court, will be used for training, so that officers aren't taking their own car. If they have to go to court, they can come to the police station, get a town-owned vehicle, and they're traveling for town business, which we don't have available right now.
That's good, because currently then would they infer the mileage?
They could if they could. They usually don't, but could they? Yes. And it's beyond the mileage. There's an issue of liability. They're working for the town. They're covered by the town, and now they're in their car, and there's an accident.
Yeah.
So we'd much rather have them in a town-owned vehicle. So.
Any other questions?
The only thing I would ask you again is if you would look at Form 8, because that same statewide telecommunication board issue has a $21,889 implication on this budget. One of the grant programs that the state has had for years is what's called the E911 Support and Incentive. Part of the state's program to revamp the E911 system and get call takers in there that are professionally trained, so that call takers, so people when they call the police department in Millis get the same professional response as they get in any other community. And if you're driving through another town and you call them, you're going to get the same professional experience you get in your hometown. No matter where you are in the state of Massachusetts, you're going to get a trained call taker on the other end. Well, to make that a more easily attained by all the communities in the state, they have a grant program. It's called Supported Incentive. And based on your population and the number of calls you get, dollars would come back to your community that you could use to pay for people to do this job. And most people use it to backfill when people are either out sick or on vacation or training, one of those things. Well, that money, that is the money that they're absent the restoration of funds dedicated to the new next-gen E911 system. It is these grant funds that are going to be the first funds gone to pay for that system. And I did have conversation with the people at the E911 offices, and no one knows exactly what the dollar is going to be. No one knows anything, but what they did tell me with absolute certainty is that they do not have the funds to fund the next-gen equipment and the grant program. And they've signed a contract for the next-gen equipment. So, I did the math. So, again, should that change, it's in the form of a Form 8, so that I can just advise the town administrator and the committee that that funding mechanism has been restored, and we no longer need to pursue that. Which is the whole thing.
Any
And
other?
the last part, traffic.
Traffic.
You do have Form 6 in your packet for the traffic. $34,643 for our crossing guards. That figure is the only one that is not reflective of a contract settlement moving forward. They don't have a contract signed for fiscal year 16.
So this figure may go up.
I would anticipate that figure would. And then
It would be handled probably as a warrant.
right, and the funding would be
We
within
had
the
one
warrant. Yeah.
in the fall town meeting for that. Any questions for the chief that anyone has? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Okay. Quickly, the spring schedule. You had all received this earlier, and some of you gave feedback, some of you didn't. But if possible, if it works with people's schedules, I would like to change the February 11th meeting to February 4th, if we can get a quorum for that, because I am hoping to be out of town on that meeting.
I can't make the 4th.
Let's see if we have a quorum. Otherwise, we'll go ahead with the 11th and someone else can run.
I can make the 4th. I can do the 4th.
You can do the 4th. You will not be here. Will you be here the 11th?
No.
Okay, so
So
you're
you
watching.
don't get to vote.
That's what I thought.
I can be here the 4th, I can't be here the 11th.
Oh, okay, so,
Let's do a show of hands.
Or-
Be which.
Or the 11th.
okay, Doug?
I'm checking this calendar.
I can be here the 4th. Any 11th.
Okay, I think we'll move it to the 4th.
Okay.
Sounds like we have a quorum.
Just, I won't be here the 28th or March 4th. Just FYI, so I'll miss the pre-town
The
meeting.
28th.
28th of January.
January 28th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then the pre-town meeting I'm going to miss too, but it sounds like there's only a single item, so.
Yeah, the selectmen's meeting it depends, because they have to open the warrant.
Right.
But they were hoping to keep it to a single item, but you never know when you open the warrant what might pop into it. And that's why I think one of these I left room
Right.
to, which would be next week, or the 4th, to talk about if there are any other articles.
I will not be here on the 28th either.
Okay. 28th of January. How many are here on the 28th of January? Okay, so
Because you have a quorum, you're good.
we have a quorum. Yeah, with 9 it's much easier. And we have a quorum, I think, for the 4th, and then the 25th of February.
I'm out.
I'm here, I'm good.
I'm here.
Okay, because that one I probably will be out also.
There's this, I've got to arrange a flight so I get back in town to make it, but I think I can make it.
I'll finish my
I'm in
drive
Baltimore
back to
next
get here in
month.
time.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we're good. This was trying to reflect what Rich put together, and I did add back in the staffed budgets, that we have town staff, but sort of alternated with the others. Did I leave anything out that anyone noticed? Or are we good with this? Because then I can have Jody just schedule this. Not Jody, Jennifer, just schedule this. We good? Anything? Okay. We do have on the bills to be voted on, we have some bills for, one of them is for advertising, and then the rest are for supplies from WB Mason. So we need a motion to approve bills from Gatehouse Media and WB Mason for the total amount of $129.27.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve bills from WB Mason and
Gatehouse Media.
Gatehouse Media in the amount of $129.27.
Seconding.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve these bills. Gatehouse Media was the information, the publicity about the last town meeting, and then these are miscellaneous supplies and Jerry's nameplate.
Those
Very
$100 for that, right? Congratulations.
So it's been moved and seconded to cover the bills from Gatehouse Media and WB Mason. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now we pass this down for you to sign. And then we have the minutes approval, which you should have gotten via email from the November 3rd meeting, which is a long time ago, way back last year, more than 2 months ago. So we need a motion on the minutes from the November 3rd, which was our meeting before the town meeting and then town meeting.
I move that we approve November 3rd meeting minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the November 3rd, 2014 meeting as written. All in favor of approving those minutes, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
And Jerry, you have to abstain from this vote because you were not on the committee at that time, so it's been approved by 8 people. And then, do we have any old or new business? I haven't had a chance to look at this mail. Let me just open this Mass Municipal Association to see if there's anything we need to know about, and then we can move on. Okay, there's a new Finance Committee handbook.
Excellent.
So I will get it in, looks like we send this back in and get it in the form of CDs, but
We could do 20th.
we can do that. That's all I have. Anyone have any old or new business? Okay,
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're only 15 minutes late. Thank you very much. Our next meeting will be the 28th.
There's a shot I might make it to my point.